Hey everyone, and welcome to this live with me, Colin Parsons, the host of Vantage Point. So, for those of you who are returning, thanks for keep on listening to me. I'd love to hear your feedback on how things are going. Is there anything that you think I could do to improve this? Any guests that you would like for me to interview, maybe even yourself. And if you do, send me a message. Send me a direct message or click on my LinkedIn profile. You can book some time with me. We can have a chat and we can go from there. Now, for those of you who have not been to one of my lives before, really these lives are about myself talking to guests. Now, exceptionally for the last video and for this one, I'm actually doing this solo. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that I'm experimenting. One, to see if I can do it. I did a video previous to this one, seemed to go very well, waiting for feedback from you guys. Also, can I hold a conversation with myself for that amount of time? So I think there's a lot of things that I could cover, but I want to talk about building self-awareness as a superpower. Now, for those of you who have watched before, a lot of these lives are loosely based around business and people. Now, one of the topics that I think we don't really talk about is self-awareness. And I want to sort of dive into that today. And as part of the experiment, I'm going to talk about it myself. So I'd love your feedback, love your thoughts. If there's anyone that thinks differently or some challenges along the way, that would be great. And I'm going to post this as a solo episode. And yeah, look forward to your comments. And I'm doing the solo for the reason that I'm going on holiday. And I created this business with the idea that I would have freedom. And whilst I tested it before that I've been on holiday and I've actually held the lives, I want to see if I could do it differently and do a recording that I could post as a live. So all experiment, all fun, having fun with this, seeing where it goes. So let's dive into the topic. Now, self-awareness. There is so much to this, and I think it's a really important part, especially when we talk about business, whether we're starting our own business or we're working for someone else. Why? Because I think there's so much that goes on up here that we don't even realize that's going on. We kind of run on autopilot. Our days are stretched, they're busy, we're constantly consuming. We live in a world where we don't like to spend any time with our own thoughts. It can be a very scary place. I heard a funny story the other day to say that people would rather give themselves an electric shock than sit with their own thoughts for 15 minutes. I thought that was quite scary at first, but then I realized that I'm actually can be one of those people. Or often, even if I'm cooking something or doing breakfast in the morning, I like to have some background noise. And that's quite scary because we do live in a world where you can just turn on social media and have all these inputs. And I think our self-awareness goes away because we're drowning out with all of this other noise. And I think there's so much that's not serving us. And through self-awareness, we can start to understand what that is, why that is, and how that actually works. So I really want to sort of share a bit of my journey. Hopefully, I guess this is more about talking to myself, as I was younger, because I think, when you talk about self-awareness, people's eyes roll or they think of some weird concept or some woo-woo, getting in contact, in connection with yourself. But I think there's so much more to it, and it doesn't need to be, sitting on a mountaintop and meditating. It's actually much more easier than that and very, very important. Now, self-awareness for myself, I'm not sitting here saying I'm an expert because I really am not, but I've been on a journey, and that journey started, I would say, around 10 years ago. And I moved to Luxembourg, and my decision, I moved with my partner at the time, um, and starting a new job with a new company, moved away from my family, my friends, my routine, my everything. I'd never lived away from home before, and it turned my world upside down. And although I wanted it, it was quite a scary place because I was in a new country, didn't speak the language, although everyone in Luxembourg speaks English if you ask them to, and started a job. And what happened was the job that I was going for, I had a vision in my head of, based on the interview and the feedback of what they wanted. And I came home quite a few times quite angry, and my partner at the time said to me, "You're quite angry," and I think that was a side they hadn't seen of me before, and said, "Oh, maybe you should go and see someone about that." Now, I realized at the time why I was angry is that it was a huge change in my life. You know, everything had turned upside down. Um, I tried to keep my exercise routine going as a way to sort of stabilize and give myself some routine. But because of all of these other external factors, I was very sensitive. So things, I couldn't really sort of take some distance about things, and things were annoying me, or they, you know, that I took them to heart a bit more. And that showed up in the relationship that I had. And I was being not aggressive, but quite vocal and disappointed. And, my partner at the time said I was being quite angry. I didn't think that. I felt that I was expressing it. And her recommendation at the time was that I went to see someone. And I was okay with that. Now, I went actually to therapy because that's what I felt at the time was necessary. I didn't know much about therapy, but I went, and that's where my journey started. Now, I am a big advocate of therapy. Now, it's really strange because it's almost my go-to thing when I realize that people are in, not happy with the world or their situation. And I have to be careful for that because it feels like that's my answer for everything. The reason I say therapy, and therapy can show up in many different ways, it can actually come through coaching. And I would really like to change the word therapy, because I think there's this big misconception in the world that therapy is that you can't handle the world, or that you're crazy in some way. And it isn't that. I learned that for myself. It's about understanding more of yourself, bringing that self-awareness of you, what's going on, your environment, everything. And that's a superpower, because once you've got that, it can change so much, because you have control and awareness of what's going on. There are things that you obviously can't control in the world, but you can control how you show up, who you are. Now, let's just go back to the idea of therapy. Now, at first, I felt a little bit ashamed about talking about therapy, and I actually spoke to my therapist at the time, and again, I was very sensitive, and she said, "No, do you know what? It's very courageous to come to therapy." And ever since she said that, I realized it was. She said it's brave to look at yourself, brave to look at your situation. There are probably changes that you need to make, and that takes courage. And that reframed the idea of therapy for me. So ever since she told me that, I'm very vocal about it. It's not the first thing I say to people when I meet them, but I really don't shy away from saying that I've been through therapy. And again, there's always misconceptions. People are going to see it's a different way. They'll think I've been strapped to a chair and been electrocuted to change my mind. It's not that. It's about understanding yourself, your brain, your environment, finding ways to see the things that are serving you and those that are not. And that journey, as a young man, was amazing for me. And I don't just say this for young men, I say it for everybody. But I think especially for men in this day and age, I don't think that we feel that comfortable to talk to people, to say that we've been to therapy. It feels not a macho thing. And if this removes some stereotyping around therapy, then great, because I think we all need to have conversations. We all need to speak to people. And again, maybe it's not a therapist. And this relationship with the word therapy, I think, gets in the way of actually, it gives the negative connotations. And I think it doesn't serve us well. So maybe there's something in between that will work in the future. As part of that journey, I had therapy for about 6, 7 years, and it was great. It really was great. A few of the things that I learned from that is that, you know, we grow up, we, you know, we're kids, we're told what to do, situations happen to us, things that we perceive a certain way, our background, simple things. Now, when I say about therapy, our mind jumps to, oh, okay, like abuse in some way, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be just simply, something very simple, how you saw yourself. It can be how you view yourself today and why you view yourself that way. And that doesn't need to come through drastic events that happened. It can be as something someone said to you as a child, and you've internalized it the wrong way, or you saw it from a different perspective, and that story got stuck in your head, and it's holding you back from being more of who you are, showing up as how you want to be. You'll see this probably in a lot of patterns, things that show up in the way that you are in relationships or the way that you are at work. And that's certainly what I've found for myself, is that, I've worked in the banking industry for 20 plus years, and I had many different jobs, but I worked in mainly one company for most of that. And there were times when, things weren't going okay. And I was becoming sensitive, and I needed to understand why I was being sensitive, what was triggering that. And this sent me on a voyage of self-discovery. It was amazing, and it doesn't need to be painful. It can be very joyous, and rewarding. And I was into it. At some stage, I felt that I blamed external circumstances for why I was like I was, parents, teachers, etc. And again, nothing major happened to me. Yes, there was a small amount of bullying when I was younger, but that showed up in how I perceive things. And it's awareness of all of those things in your past, looking at those and reframing them. And again, there's a million different, well, there's not a million, but there's a ton of different ways out there to go back and look at these things, rewire your brain, rethink it, get a different perspective on all of those things. And it was amazing for me. The things that I came up with, and the memories, some of the things I didn't even know existed. And often what I found is, in my past, there was something that I thought was the issue, but actually it was that thing that I cleared, and then it revealed something else that was holding me back. It was triggers, events, things that were, I'd internalized in maybe not a healthy way. And going back and looking at those, being kind to myself, and reprocessing them with an adult brain gave me such a different perspective on who I am and where I can go in the world. And that isn't just for myself, it's for the people around me, and the relationships I'm in with my kids or girlfriend or whoever, with my parents. And that awareness only came through therapy. And I'm so grateful for that. Now, in all of this, I have to be careful, because therapy isn't about changing yourself. It's not that, oh, okay, I'm going to be a completely different person, because I've lived in that world where I thought, oh, if I was more attractive, then this would happen. If I had more money, people would see me differently. This was actually around saying that I was okay, that I was enough, that the way that I do things is okay, and the things that I do that are holding me back, okay, maybe they're no longer serving me, but actually finding those, being curious about them, discovering who I am, connecting with the things that make me me, and connecting with the things that are holding me back or standing in the way, or I've misconceived in some way. And then you can deal with all of that. And that's a journey that doesn't come overnight. It's not a quick hack that we like to think of that we're going to do and everything's going to be okay. Yes, there's things like hypnotherapy that you can change some of your behavior, but we're much more than just one action. And this is a theme that I've really leaned into, and I've enjoyed it, not as a beating myself up, but as a discovery, as a curiosity, because at the end of all of this, the more I understand about myself, the more I understand what's triggering me, more I things that show up and I'm unsure, or they create emotions or things that I don't understand, I can lean into it. And often behind a lot of those emotions, a lot of those things, there's a lot of joy and a lot of pleasure, and they're not as scary as we think. And oftentimes, where the fear comes from is through the resistance of a lot of these things. One of the things that I felt for the longest time was I couldn't cry. I I suppressed emotions, and we're not supposed to suppress emotions. I just thought that's how we did things. I didn't cry, I didn't show weakness. I just internalized it. Now, excuse me. What I've later come to realize about myself and about everybody else, that we think if we swallow our emotions or events or hide them, our body actually holds the score. They come out in one way or another, in a disease, in a in a condition or something, and they show up in a different way. So what shows up is a symptom, and then you have to look at that symptom. Now, where a lot of misdirection can come from is that you're trying to fix the symptom, but you actually need to trace it back to the root cause. That can take time. And again, doesn't need to be painful. Yeah, sure, you might need to go through some of the memories that you've got. But if you do that with a curious mind, and definitely I would recommend going and talking to someone to help guide you through that. And full disclosure, go and find the right person. There are a million people out there that would advertise as a therapist and maybe certified in many ways. That doesn't make them a good therapist, doesn't make them a good coach. Spend the time finding someone that you really resonate with, that will hold your hand, make you accountable. It's not just a job for them. They are trained, they understand, they've perhaps seen this number of times. And yes, you might need to kiss a few frogs to get to that person, and that might feel draining in terms of telling your life story to that person again, like you've done with a few previous people. But the time spent connecting with the right person that can help you is so worthwhile. That it is just, it might feel painful at the time of just sort of retelling your story, but the benefits, you'll move a lot faster. And the true therapist that can see actually what's going on, not the misdirection that you're probably telling them in the stories that you're coming up with, really will move the needle a lot better. Now, one of the big things for me is the vision I had of myself. And I still think of myself as a child. I still think of myself as, maybe a 12-year-old who doesn't know anything or hasn't got it all worked out. And I think that actually can be a benefit in some ways. We often think of it as a negative, but having children myself allowed me to kind of reconnect with that, have fun, enjoy it, and just go, yeah, just be silly. And also I found it in doing the job that I'm doing now, these lives. The more I connect with it, the more I go, yeah, this is me. I'm going to bring more of my authentic self. And if I feel a bit silly, that's fine. And I like doing it, fine. Because at the end of all this, people connect with people. They don't connect with robots. Yes, AI can imitate people, but the reality is people want to understand how other people are, because it then allows people to go, oh, yes, actually, thank you. Someone else has said it. I resonate with that. Or they don't. But if you try to hide who you are just to please other people, then that shows up. And it might not show up in what you're doing, but it shows up in you, and that can show up as resentment. So there's a whole web, excuse me, of emotions, thoughts, and processes. But being aware of all of these things that play a part in who you are, how you are, it just changes everything for you. It enlightens you. It helps you think a different way, helps you connect with really who you are. And we only have one life, and that's it. You should be who you are. Now, a lot of this, and as I said, there's a lot of ways of clearing things that have happened in your past or getting in contact with them. I've done things like EMDR. I've done things like self-hypnosis. There's a very good guy that I've worked with, Jay Williams. He's been on my lives with me, and I attribute a lot of my progress down to Jay. He's on a journey himself. He's really gone through things, but he really understands it, and he does things in such a caring way. He's got tools. He cuts through all the crap, and he's really been by my side a lot. So Jay, if you're watching this, thank you very much. For those of you, wanting to maybe reach out to Jay. I'm sure he would be interested in sharing some of his tools, and that can be of a real benefit. Now, another area is about improving, and again, I have to be careful here because we live in a world where we think we need to be A players, and A players are celebrated, and we need to wake up every minute of every day and just live it, full speed. And improvement doesn't need to be linear. It doesn't need to be everything. It can be in who you are, in how you talk to yourself, how you show up in relationships, how you respond, how you react. And those things can take time, and it's not, every day you need to do it. And it, again, it is a journey, but it can be fun. It can be something about discovering yourself that makes it fun and entertaining. We also get to experiment, and that's super fun as well. You can try to connect with who you are. And I think a lot of us suppress that. One of the big areas that I've struggled with is people pleasing. And I found out where it comes from. And it's a lot of validation from other people. Where this showed up in my life was that I entered a room. If there was 10 people in the room and one person was upset, I would assume that person was upset with me. Probably never met them before in my life, but I assumed who I was and how I was offended them in some way. So I would use that very much as okay, I need to go and talk to that people, charm them a little bit to understand, do they like me? And I couldn't rest until I understood that they actually liked me. Now, that is an exhausting thing, especially when you work in companies and you work in different departments. And what's the point? The reality is I've definitely over the last couple of years that you can have, best friends in your life, people very close to you, and you can try to be the best person and please all of those, but you make a decision that they don't agree with and they don't like you, but you are just being you, and that can be very painful. And so I realized that actual people pleasing, whilst yes, maybe helped me in the short term by people liking me or feeling that I was charismatic or that that actually was of my benefit, the reality was holding me back. I was using my energy in the wrong way and focusing on the wrong thing. And actually, I should just be more comfortable with who I was and understanding that people won't like me. There are people that do love me. There are people that just think I'm okay. There are people probably watching this thinking, who is this guy? I don't like how he shows up. But that's absolutely okay. And it's taken a long time to unwind that people pleaser. But I didn't realize it existed. And going and seeing someone can help hold up a mirror to who you are. That doesn't need to be violent. It can be done in such a caring and thoughtful way. But oftentimes we're not very good at looking inwards. We kind of look external. We point fingers, we judge, um, and we don't look internally. I will preface that with the idea that we are often our own worst enemy. I definitely have been one of those people. But actually looking internally, looking at who we are, how we show up, what's going on, trying to not fix it because we're not broken, but just work around things, change things that aren't serving us. It's such an amazing thing to do. And once you do it, you can start to create this distance, the way that you react, the way that you show up. So I'll give a great example here. I have two young children, and I went through recently that I found that I was shouting at them more than I wanted to, and yeah, sometimes quite aggressively, and I wasn't proud of that, and I didn't know what was going on, and it was just, and I felt immediately guilty afterwards, and I was like, that seems a bit out of context. So I did some digging, started to understand, and I took a bit of time, and I realized actually what was going on in my brain. There was a lot of insecurities, there's a lot of negativity. There was things such as starting my own business, feeling frustrated, not making contacts, not making progress, not generating any money, holding myself to higher standard, trying to be a perfectionist. And all of those things, or one of those things, was happening. And then I was thinking about it all in my brain. And then my focus would switch to the room that I was in with the kids, and they maybe dropped, a biscuit or something, and it created a crumb. And I was taking all of that from the back of my brain. I'm not an expert on the brain, but this is how it works in my view. From the back of my brain to the front of my brain, and then literally vomited out this shouting at my kids. Now, in reality, we all drop biscuits, we all create crumbs, and it just seemed out of context. So I had to trace back actually what was going on. And this comes back to the idea that, treat the root cause and not the symptom. So it took a little while. I had a conversation with people that actually understood. And I think because I'd been on this journey myself, I realized that there were some insecurities. And what I tried to teach myself was pausing, and pausing can be the best thing that you ever do. We often think pausing, is going to take the world. You've got to pause for 10 seconds and count. The reality for me was that you can pause for a millisecond, and it just is that millisecond before reacting, or just questioning what's going on here. What's actually the reality? Is this something in my brain? Where am I? Where is that thought? Where's it come from? And that seems like it's a long journey, but that millisecond pause can be the difference between you reacting to something and then creating a situation that you don't want. You don't want to upset your children. Yeah, okay, fine. You need to give some authority and direction at sometimes, but not in the way that I was doing it. And then changing your reaction and going, oh, okay, this isn't about them. This is about something else. And then bringing that awareness. Oh, okay, what is it? What's triggering me? Okay, it's the thoughts that are triggering me. Why are those thoughts coming up? And this leads me on to this thing. It can be thought of many ways. It's the voice in our head. I've often heard it referred to as the critic. And I think this is one of the biggest things. Now, the critic I often think of as like a gremlin in my head. It's that person that thinks you need to be perfect or beats you up when you've done something silly. and is quite aggressive. Now, it's a voice in our head. We all probably think of it as a different way. But yeah, I see it as a gremlin. Um, and through pausing, through awareness, I've realized that I am talking very negatively to myself. The way that I'm saying things, the way that I view myself. And these are not words that I were potentially saying out loud, but I'm saying them in my head. And the words that we say to ourselves become our reality. And for the longest time, I was always beating myself up and thinking I was bad, or the way that I was showing up, or who I was, or what I looked like was terrible. And I strongly believe this is quite difficult in a lot of people, and a lot of people probably either aren't aware that this is going on, or probably don't talk about it. Now, something that's strangely happened, and I'm not quite sure how this has happened, is that I've softened the words that I'm using for myself. So if something went wrong, I spilt, I don't know, some milk or something, the critic would normally say, "Yep, yeah, you're stupid. You've done that. Oh, for sake, like, how have you done that?" Now I'm finding myself being softer, and I go, "Oh, that was silly. Could have avoided that." And it's that pause, that reframing, that softening of words actually has such a huge impact on me, because I'm kinder to myself. I have this awareness. It starts with the awareness. I pause, and sometimes that critic will go off on a bit of a rant or something about everything. If you've had a lack of sleep, or you're not eating well, or you're just tired, your day's been bad, series of events haven't worked out as you want, and that critic can start ramping up. But having that awareness, you can start to just dial it back a bit, dial it back, soften the words. Now, there's different ways of dealing with a critic. I think we all have it. I've not spoken to that many people, but I believe it exists in all of us in different shapes or forms. And I think that you can start to see it in others. You can see when people are being aggressive, when people are picking holes in other people, that the critic in their head is actually playing a big part. They're being very hard on themselves. And when you have that awareness that that's actually going on, it can, again, give you that different perspective, a little bit of distance to, maybe step away from an argument, or just see that actually something else is at play. And that self-awareness is like a superpower, because you've spent the time thinking about yourself, understanding how things work. And again, it will be different for other people. But then when you spot what's going on with other people, you can then start showing up with compassion. Okay, sure, they might be aggressive, or they might be shouting, or something's going on. But oftentimes, the thing that's going on is not the thing that's showing up. It's the thing behind it. Now, if you can create that small amount of time, that little pause where you don't react to things, and you actually take some distance for yourself and then for other people, you're going to get amazing results, and a very different result. You might get there even if you'd had that argument, but it might have taken you a lot longer, or you've created a different dynamic or a different relationship. Being self-aware of what's going on for you allows you to look at other people with more compassion, with more kindness, and saying, oh, okay, I'm not signing up for this. And if you're self-aware, you don't actually get involved in the thing that's happening. You can kind of step away. Again, not something that you can do overnight. It takes time, takes training, takes self-awareness. Doing that changes how you show up for other people. Now, all of this, I want to tie it all up, because a lot of these lives are about people, and they're about business. And some of the most successful people that I've interviewed, and they are in different realms. A lot of those are coaches, people in their started their own business, partnerships, etc. One of the things that I see as most successful is when they put people first. So if you're a leader, or you're in charge of people. And I think we need to be careful with the term leader, because just because you've been given a title doesn't make you a leader. But if you understand what's going on for you and not think that everyone is like you, and you have this self-awareness, this discovery of who you are and that other people are different, and create that space, create that environment, you can put people first, and you can then build a successful business team, whatever it is around that. And that's what I've seen in other people. They put other people first, and that becomes a very, very powerful thing in business. So, to tie it all up nicely, having self-awareness is a superpower. It will change how you show up, how you think about yourself, how you show up, stop triggering things that aren't serving you, give you more self-confidence, see the world differently, see people differently, change the way that you can do business and that you interact and collaborate. And ultimately that all ends up in some form of success. And it might not come through money. It might just come through working at a place where everyone wants to show up and be more of themselves. And that doesn't need to be a negative thing. It can be such a positive thing. So for me, it's worth the journey. I'm still on it. I still question a lot of stuff. Our brains, our background, our history, everything is complex, but it can be super fun understanding who we are, not necessarily saying, okay, that's the story that I've been telling myself for the last 40 years. We can change that. We can adapt. We can learn. And the more I understand about myself, the more it helps me understand and be curious about other people and see what's showing up for them. Then you start to see patterns, and you can really have an impact on other people and those people around you. Like I said, in relationships, in your work, in the relationship with yourself. And it's an amazing thing. So I'm going to leave it there. I think that's a good point to sort of really reflect on. And I hope you get something out of that. It's not to say that everyone needs to go to therapy. It's not to say that my journey was the right journey. But take some time, understand you, understand where you are, your situation, and a lot about you. And again, you can do that on your own. There's a lot of books and resources out there, but there's also a lot of people that will help you do that. And doing that is definitely worth the investment in my mind. So I hope you got something out of that. I really did. It was almost therapy for myself, sharing actually how I think about things, the journey that I've been on. And let me know. Was there things in there that resonated with you? Is there things that you think that I didn't tackle or you'd like to hear more about? Maybe I can get an expert on here. Maybe I can get Jay back on here and we can talk about some of those things to help share the message. And I think if we do that, bring some awareness to ourselves, things will be a lot better and business will be better as well. So hope you enjoyed it. Super fun for me. Interesting to see myself just staring at myself at the camera and having fun with it. So let me know if you want to have a conversation. Please go onto my LinkedIn. There's a link there and we can have a chat and see if maybe a live suits you. I've had some recently and they've been amazing. They've opened up my mind. They've allowed the other person to feel a bit more confident about being on camera. I think oftentimes we shy away from it, and some of the best people that I've had on the live didn't know that they were going to be brilliant on camera, and you know who you are. And I encourage people to do it and to have these conversations. It's enjoyable. It's going to help me on my journey and what I've committed to doing. Don't think you don't have a story to tell or something to share, because we all really do. We're actually a lot more interesting than we probably allow ourselves. I didn't think I was interesting, but I've created this journey for myself and I'm sharing it. So click that button on my LinkedIn profile. Let's have a chat and see where we go from there. You might just be on the next live. So thank you for bearing with me. Hope it wasn't too much of a ramble for you. Hope you get something out of it. Any thoughts, any opinion, any feedback, please send me a direct message. Be kind though. I like feedback. I I like constructive feedback. That's great. Criticism, not my best friend. So yeah, just do it in a kind way, because I'd like to improve these things. I'd like to make them better, and at the end of this, have something that I was very proud of, and yeah, see where it takes me. So I can only do that with feedback from you guys. So yeah, I'd appreciate it. That's it from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with me, and yeah, we'll get back to normal practice with having a guest on. I've already got those planned after I return from holiday. So yeah, wishing you well, and thanks again for listening. Okay, take care.